So the PlayStation VR is getting ready to launch, and now some doctors and experts in various fields are beginning to sound the alarm, claiming that VR could not only be bad for your eyes, but also for your brain. And some are short-term problems, but others could be lifelong issues that you have to deal with. So one of the biggest concerns that is brought up by multiple people is it's an epidemic that's already affecting tons of young people all around the globe, and that is the development of myopia, or nearsightedness, or short-sightedness, as sometimes it's referred to. And it's where you can see and focus on items close to you, but objects in the distance are going to be blurry. And so for a long time, people thought this was just something that you inherit, but then all of a sudden they started seeing huge numbers of kids starting to develop this problem over the last 50 years, because like in the 70s, there was an estimate that there was like only 15 to 20% of the people who suffered from it. Now they say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 40% of the population who suffers from this. And they attribute this huge spike to a couple of different reasons. One, they say people are just going outside less, and your eyes actually need sunlight for optimal function. But also, as they say, the screens that everybody's carrying around with them today, the tablets, the phones, etc., they say that plays a big part because people are constantly looking at a screen that's near them, so they're not really using the functions of their eyes that are used for, distant objects, and you're constantly just sitting there just staring at a screen that's right there close to you. And so they say that that's why kids are developing this on an epidemic level. And so whenever you're sitting at a VR screen, of course, you're sitting about as close as you could be possibly to something, and obviously you're not using that function of your eye or your brain, for that matter, that would help with focus on items in different distances. They also say a large number of people with these VR devices have went to their eye doctors complaining of dry eye, which can cause extreme pain because people tend to blink less when they're wearing these headsets. It's not something you are thinking about doing, but it just happens whenever you're mainly in stressful situations and you're apparently immersed in this world. Now, this article that I'm reading from, this actually isn't the first to say this. There's actually been many. I was actually watching an MIT professor who worked with Microsoft Research a few years ago. He's on video saying that they studied VR for a period of time, and they determined that it also could cause long-term eye issues as well as neurological rewiring of your brain. Also recently at UCLA, they did a recent study using rats in a virtual reality environment, and they said that they were surprised because the rats were acting normally whenever they were in this virtual reality, but they said that 60% of the brain cells in the hippocampus region actually shut down whenever they were in this world, and that's the part that tells you, where you're at as far as your surroundings go. It's the part of the brain responsible for memory, for learning, for dreaming. And so they go on, and there's a number of different items that they say could be potentially dangerous with VR. They also mention, of course, things like motion sickness, which I think everybody is well aware of. So, of course, they aren't saying that this is, a warning for Sony or PlayStation VR headsets. This is a warning for all VR devices, but no doubt PlayStation VR is going to be one of the most popular devices out there. I expect them, and a lot of other people expect them to sell a large number of headsets compared to the competition, but also the quality of the headset, according to pretty much everybody, is quite a bit lower. So if you've got a lower resolution, of course, that could cause more problems with eye strain whenever you compare it to other VR headsets. So as far as my personal take on this goes, look, I don't think anybody knows what the long-term effects of this are because we just don't have enough research, because it hasn't been out long enough to actually do long-term studies with. And so this is going to be something that we're probably not going to find out for probably a few years. And so today's users, you're the guinea pigs. And Sony is obviously also a bit concerned about this because there's actually a warning on the PlayStation VR headset. They say that they do not want children under 12 playing the PlayStation VR. This is from Sony themselves because they understand that whenever you're in that age group, that your eyes are still developing. So this could obviously have some sort of impact that even they're aware of from a scientific standpoint. And so part of this is probably fear mongering, but also it's true that myopia is a growing epidemic. You can go read about tons of articles that have come out recently over the last few years, especially in kids. And I mean, it sort of makes sense, if you're not using a function of your brain or your eye that focuses on distant objects for a long period of time, sort of like the use it or lose it sort of argument. But in the end, look, nobody knows. And I'm sure you're going to have some people that'll show up probably in this comment section who are going to argue that they're perfectly fine after using VR and this is all, a bunch of BS. That's great. I mean, that really doesn't prove anything. It just means that it was okay for you. Some people are perfectly fine after dropping acid, while others aren't. So it doesn't mean that it's entirely safe. So we're going to have to wait on the scientific community to actually catch up there. But I do think that if you use common sense, you don't wear it all day long, and you take breaks just like doctors recommend that you already do if you're sitting, for instance, in front of a computer all day, and you do go outside, you do other things, hopefully you'll be fine. But at the end of the day, nobody knows what the long-term effects of this are gonna be, not even the people who actually have the devices right now. And so if I had a kid, I'd definitely be cautious before running out and buying them this new toy for Christmas. So post your VR thoughts below, and are you concerned that this could cause health issues in the long term? That does it for me, the Red Dragon. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Are you listening? Damn.